So good evening, everybody, and you're very welcome to our webinar about low vision technology, which is jointly being hosted by Sight and Sound Technology and Fighting Blindness. My name is Stuart Lawler, and I am Head of Digital Content here at Sight and Sound Technology. We are an assistive technology company that provides a wide range of technology to people with a wide range of disabilities in the UK and here in Ireland. Our specialism is in vision impairment, blind and low vision, and that's going to be the focus of the session for this evening. But we do provide software and hardware and indeed services right across the spectrum. With me this evening is from Sight and Sound Technology is my colleague Graham Martin. Graham is our territory manager in Scotland. He's based in Glasgow, although I think it's fair to say at the moment Graham is pretty much UK wide. He's everywhere. He's traveling everywhere. And indeed, Graham will be over here next week, and I'll talk about next week in a moment. With us from Fighting Blindness is Rachel Birmingham, and Rachel is the research manager with Fighting Blindness, and Rachel will speak to us in just a moment. So the format for the session tonight is that after my quick blurb, Rachel's going to speak to us for a couple of minutes about Fighting Blindness, about the organization and some of the research that's going on, and this is really interesting stuff. After that, we are going to pause for questions for Rachel because Rachel does have to leave pretty promptly. So we will take a moment if anybody has questions for Rachel, and then I'm going to hand over to Graham. And Graham is going to, I suppose, get a feel for the room in terms of what people might be using and challenges you might have with your technology or things you may be interested in. And Graham has a range of technology that he can talk to us about. And then after that, we'll have some time for questions, and we hope to have you out of here before 8 p.m. at the latest. So if you'd like to get in touch with us this evening, you can do so using the Zoom meeting platform, either by using chat. You can click the chat option, or if you prefer to use a keyboard shortcut and you're on Windows, that's Alt and H. If you're using a smartphone to connect to us, the chat option is found under More Options. Or you can raise your virtual hand and we will come to you later so that you can ask your question in person. You can do that by clicking the raise hand button, or you can press Alt and Y if you're using a computer, or if you're on a mobile app, the raise hand button is under More Options. Now, just before I hand over to Rachel Birmingham, just want to mention that next week, Sight and Sound Technology, alongside actually our friends at Fighting Blindness and some of our other charity partners, are taking to the road. And we have a 4-day roadshow starting on Monday, the 9th of October in TU Dublin, Grange Gorman. On Tuesday the 10th, we're in Waterford. Wednesday the 11th, we're in Cork, and Thursday the 12th, we're in Galway. What I'm going to do while Rachel is speaking is I'm going to put a link in the chat that will give you all the information about the roadshow, all the locations, and a link to a form where you can register your interest if you'd like to attend. You don't have to register, but if you would like to register and let us know to which of the venues you might like to come. This is a really timely session, actually, because it will be a great way for you to get your hands on some of the tech that Graham is going to speak about this evening, and you'll even get to meet Graham, which is an extra bonus, I think. So we're looking forward, hopefully, to seeing some people next week in any of the locations that I mentioned. So I think that's enough from me. I'm very happy to hand over to Rachel Birmingham, who is the research manager with Fighting Blindness. So Rachel, over to you.
Great. Thank you, Stuart. I'm just going to share my screen. So hopefully now that is visible for everybody. So yes, I'm Rachel Birmingham. I'm the research manager at Fighting Blindness. So I'm just going to give a bit of background, I suppose, to Fighting Blindness and some of the activities that we do in terms of research, and talk about some of our upcoming events and conferences that might be of interest to people. So in terms of who we are, some of you might be familiar with us already, but we're a charity, an Irish charity that was set up in 1983. So this year is our 40th anniversary, and we just celebrated our birthday there last week at our AGM. And we were originally set up as by families affected by inherited retinal degenerations, or IRDs. And it was families coming together that set up the charity, and it's going strong since. And we are the leading patient-led charity funding vision research in Ireland and abroad. And our priority and our focus is in inherited retinal diseases, IRDs, and age-related macular degeneration, AMD. So who we are, there's 15 members of staff, which is quite a good number of staff for the charity of our size. And within that, I'm the research manager, but there are also three additional members on the research team. So 4 in total, which is really great for a charity of our size. I think it emphasizes the focus that we have on research. So this is myself, another research manager, a research officer, and a science communications executive as well. And we're based in Ely Place in Dublin too, so just off Stephen's Green. Our vision as a charity is ultimately to find treatments and cures, in particular in IRDs and AMD. And we do this by supporting 3 arms within our organization. So we have research, which is one of our core pillars. And this is something that we're strongly focused on as an organization. We are a research charity organization. Like I said, we're focused on finding treatments and cures for IRDs and AMD, but we also work closely with our other departments. So we have an advocacy department, and they work on trying to get equal access to diagnosis and therapies for those affected by vision loss. And one campaign that they were working on that you might have heard of is around Luxturna, so treatment for LCA and retinitis pigmentosa, which was recently approved by the Irish government to be reimbursed for use in Ireland, which is a great feat. It's the first gene therapy in vision loss area to be approved in Ireland. And then we have our support arm. So this, some of you may be familiar with our support groups that we run. We've also restarted our counselling for people affected by vision loss. And I'll give information on how you can get more information from our website on those supports that are available. And also, I suppose, a core function of ourselves as a charity is our fundraising. So around 5% of our funding comes from the government, and that generally goes towards our support services. The rest is fundraised through donations and things like corporate sponsorship and things like that. So in terms of research, since we began 40 years ago, we've invested over 20 million in research. And these are research projects that take place in Ireland and also internationally. They're generally based in universities or in hospitals. And the projects can be a mix of kind of biomedical projects, clinical projects. We have also worked on projects around socioeconomic burden of living with IRDs. So it's been a real mix, those 115 projects, and a real mix of people and institutes that have received funding. So at the moment, we currently have 8 active research projects, and they're based in Ireland, but also in the Netherlands. So by active, I mean is that they're currently running at the moment and going strong. So we cover, up until now, we've covered a host of vision loss conditions, in particular retinitis pigmentosa. We've also looked at Stargardt's disease, LHON, and more recently, we have a focus on age-related macular degeneration, or AMD. So these, like I've said, these projects are varied in different ways. So we recently updated our website for people who may be interested in learning more about these projects. So our website features kind of summaries of the projects and the researchers that are working on them. So this is just a screenshot of our website. And it gives more information on the projects in a non-scientific way, so understandable to people who aren't the scientists carrying out the research, and it gives a good breakdown of all of the projects that we've funded and have funded in the past number of years, if anyone was interested in that. I just want to highlight, I suppose, one of the projects that Fighting Blindness is a partner on, So Professor Matt Campbell and his co-PI, Professor Sarah Doyle, they're leading a project, a European project, or sorry, an Irish project called ID. So this is a very exciting project. It's based out of Trinity College, and actually the project total amount of funding is 3.2 million, which is quite significant for any project really that's ongoing. But the aim of the project really is focusing on identifying the underlying causes of some of the most common forms of blindness, including AMD. So there's a lot of different parts to this project. So within the project, there's I think 6 or 7 different strands. And Fighting Blindness is a partner on 2 of these projects. So we're contributing a total of 300,000 to these projects over 3 to 4 years. But this is a really exciting project because it's not just looking at the genetics of vision loss conditions, which in the past Fighting Blindness have focused on, and we still fund projects within that area, looking at the genetics. But these are looking at common causes, which means that if there's a treatment developed, it means that it can treat more forms of a condition than just one that is caused by one genetic mutation. So it's really exciting. They're both really great researchers, and we're very excited to be a partner on the project. So like I said, there's more information on our website about that, but that's just one I wanted to highlight of the type of research that we fund. Something that might be of interest to people on the call is our Visually Impaired Persons Network, or our VIP network. So this is around public and patient involvement and about getting people involved in vision loss research. So this can kind of happen in 2 ways. So we are looking for people to get more involved in our own research department activities, such as being involved in feedback groups around maybe our science communication plan or the direction that the research funding should take, and things like that. But we're also really strong advocates for getting people affected by vision loss working with researchers and incorporating it into research projects, so that patients just aren't the people at the end that receive the treatment, but they actually have an active role in deciding the direction of research and what research is done. So this is something that Fighting Blindness has worked on for a number of years, and we continue to put a strong focus on it. So if anyone was interested in becoming involved in the VIP network, what they can do is contact myself at Fighting Blindness, so research@fightingblindness.ie, or give our office a call on 0167890004. And I know this probably information will be shared after if anyone wants to contact me. But just to say, if you get involved in the network, there's no onus to actually be actively involved. What you'll do is you'll receive emails around opportunities that come up, but there's no pressure to get involved in anything. But it could be a nice way if people are interested in research of getting involved. Some of you might have attended our Retina Conferences in the past. So these are annual conferences that take place, and we have a scientific day and a public engagement day where people can learn about things like the supports that are on offer and also the latest research advancements. We have international speakers. We also have early stage career researchers speak at it. We always have a good attendance, and we have won awards in the past, which we are very proud of, but there isn't one taking place this year in 2023 because we're actually going to be welcoming and hosting an international World Congress, the Retina International World Congress, in June of next year. So that's the June from June 5th to June 8th. And that's taking place in the Royal Convention Centre, which is the part of the Radisson in Dublin City Centre. Again, we are going to open registration for this probably around November time. If people want to keep an eye out for that, it's going to be a great conference. Something I thought that might be of interest to the group as well is that as part of our support, we have a number of different support groups. And this is our newest one that I just wanted to highlight. So it's an AMD Peer Support group, and it takes place the third Tuesday of the month from 3 to 4:30. It's online on Zoom, and Zoom training can be provided in advance of joining. And if you want to get involved in that, again, it's best to give the office a call, or you can email insightgroups@fightingblindness.ie. But again, this information can be passed on. So that's one of our newest one. It's only started last month, and already it has quite a lot of activity and interest in it. So if anyone wanted to get involved, that's no problem at all. And we do offer other support groups, so that information is on our website if people are interested. So that's, I suppose, a quick overview of Fighting Blindness. I've given all the contact information here, that can be shared, no problem. And I'm very happy to answer any questions that there might be.
Okay, thanks, Rachel. Wow, there's an awful lot going on there. It just every time I hear about the work of Fighting Blindness, there seems to be more and more stuff happening. And the conference next year sounds really interesting. I'm sure we'll be hearing more about that in due course. We will be, just for people who are here, we will have the recording of this webinar will be available afterwards on YouTube and can be shared either through Fighting Blindness or here from Sight and Sound Technology. So Rachel is under a little bit of time pressure this evening, so we did want to just pause at this point in case there are any questions for Rachel. So you can either raise your hand if you want to click the raise hand if you want to ask a question, or you can type in the chat, click the chat button and put something in chat if you have any questions for Rachel about any aspect of the work of Fighting Blindness or some of the research or some really interesting projects that Fighting Blindness are involved in. And it's great to sort of hear that, you know, it's not just national, that there is an international sphere to this, and that we're certainly, Rachel, I think we're kind of punching well above our weight, I think, in that respect, which is fantastic. So, you know, well done to you and all your colleagues. It's great work. I'm just going to give a moment in case anybody wants to ask a question. As I say, you can click chat, you can put a question in, you can raise your hand, and just while we're waiting for that, I have put in the chat a link to Sight and Sound Technologies roadshows next week, which start on the 9th of October. And all the information is on the link if anybody wants to look it up, or if you have further queries, you can get in touch with me, and you will have seen my email address from when you signed up for this session. And the last thing to say, maybe just while we're waiting for questions, is that people who did sign up for this session were asked during the registration if you wanted to hear further information from Fighting Blindness. So if you're not connected with Fighting Blindness and you want further information, if you tick that box, then you will receive more information from Fighting Blindness. So Rachel, it's silence. I think that means you've done a great job. Yeah.
Brilliant.
I think it's all good. So Rachel, thanks a million for coming along and for sharing all the great work that Fighting Blindness are doing with us. We appreciate it, and we look forward to hearing about it in due course.
No problem, and thanks. And if anyone has any questions, just get in touch. It's no issue at all.
All right, thanks a million, Rachel. Very much appreciate you joining us. Okay, so that was Rachel. That was Rachel Birmingham from Fighting Blindness. So now I'm going to hand over to Graham Marden, who joins us from Glasgow. And Graham, as I said at the start, is one of our territory managers. He's responsible for a lot of different technologies, sort of promoting them, showing them, answering questions, and kind of, I suppose, helping people to get an understanding of how this technology might be useful in their life. So Graham, again, thank you for taking time out this evening to join us, and I will pass over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. You're very welcome as well, Stuart. as Stuart mentioned, I cover a vast magnitude of different technologies, and I don't want to sit here and just tell you about things that might not be of any interest to the 7 who are still on. So I would kind of like to open it up to the group and just ask, is there anything you guys have heard of that you want to know more about? Is there anything you're struggling with and you want to know if there's something that might help? Or have you seen like a newsletter or an email or a flyer or something that might talk about something? Because I'm sure you don't want to hear me talk waffle about things that might be of no use to you. So a wee bit of participation, if that's all right, if you just don't mind just telling me something that just to start the conversation.
It's always hard to be the first in these situations, but I think once one person puts something in, so you can either raise your hand if you want to just to have a bit of a chat. We're a small group, so we can keep it very informal. And as Graham says, this would help. This will certainly help us, I think, steer the conversation in the right direction for the people who are here, so that you get the most out of it. So, Geraldine Breslin, thank you, Geraldine, has raised her hand. It's always hard to be the first. So, Geraldine, you should be able to unmute yourself. I've sent you a request to unmute on Zoom, so I'll just try and do that. Hi, Geraldine.
Good evening, everybody.
How are you?
Hi, Geraldine.
I'm good, thank you. Just at a meeting I was involved in today, BeMyAI in artificial intelligence was mentioned, and people were just interested in what it has to offer, or I don't know anything about it, and I'm co-facilitating or facilitating the AMD group. So I'm just interested in finding out, what, is that technology available, BeMyAI, and, what does it offer?
I can talk a little bit about it. I have some second-hand information about it. Obviously, it's not something we provide. It's provided by BeMyAI. But I've spoken to a few people that have used it already, so I can talk to you a little bit about it. But it's not first-hand; it is all second-hand because we don't provide it ourselves. I think you're familiar with the BeMyAI service anyway.
Yeah, no, I don't. Okay. Yeah, I've heard of it, but yeah,
right. Okay, I'll very briefly cover that off first, just to get an understanding. So, BeMyAI is a service where you get an app on the phone for all intents and purposes, and if you are, let's say you're in a supermarket, for example, and you're sight impaired, you're in a supermarket, you can't see whether it's a tin of beans or a tin of soup in front of you, as a really poor example. So you can then contact the BeMyAI service through your phone. They can see through your camera for all intents and purposes and see what you're looking at or see what you're pointing at. And then they can tell you, oh, it's a tin of beans or a tin of soup or whatever. It can be used for anything. It can be used if you're out and about, if you're lost, if you're at an airport and you don't know what the signs are saying, you can ask them to see it. I don't want to say it goes through to a call center because it's not a call center. It's individuals working at home. I actually have a friend who does it himself, actually. And every now and then he'll get an alert on his phone saying that somebody's trying to contact, or there's a call waiting. He can then log on to his phone, and then the call connects to him, and then he sees what the individual sees, and then he can talk them through and answer any questions they've got. So that's a very, very brief, very quick overview of what BeMyAI is. BeMyAI is the clues in the name, I suppose, is their AI version of that service. So rather than when you're using the service, you're speaking to an individual who is completely random, I should add as well. So you don't know who you're speaking to. It'll be it's somebody who's been vetted, but they are random around the UK and around the world as well. Whereas BeMyAI connects you to, for all intents and purposes, an AI software that is then making sense of what your camera sees. Are you familiar with any other AI technology just now?
No, not really.
Right.
No.
Okay, so I can't do a comparison then, so I'll start again. So essentially, the best way to describe it is the phone, it's a live video feed, and then there's an AI making sense of what the camera's seeing and saying, there's a chair, there's a table, there's a pair of feet, there's a television, there's and it basically describes what you're seeing.
It's really, Graham, if you don't mind, because I've only started using this in the last 2 weeks because it's very new technology. But Geraldine, just to give you one very real world example, how and I think this is in some ways it's a game changer. So what it does is exactly as Graham says, you take a picture and it gives you information, but it can also take pictures. You can also give it pictures that are in your phone. And my son is 4.5, but when he was born, a friend of mine took a picture of me and him and has told me, and a lot of people have told me it's a really nice picture. But I had no concept of that because I'm totally blind. So I put this picture into BeMyAI at the weekend, and I got a very detailed feedback on what it was and on his facial expression and my facial expression. And it is quite incredible what they're doing. And then you can go and ask it things. So you can say things like, so it might say something like the picture shows a man holding a baby. They are smiling and, whatever. And then you can say something like, what age do you think the man is? Now, I'm not sure I like it because it always puts me older than I am. So I'm not very happy with that aspect. But it is quite an amazing thing. As Graham says, it's very new, and it is using artificial intelligence, and it's actually using something called ChatGPT that you may have heard of.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
To pull the information.
Yes.
So it's sending the photo to ChatGPT, and all this happens in a matter of seconds. I had a statement the other day that came as a PDF that was an image that I couldn't see, and there were probably other ways I could have got access to it, but because it was just handy on my phone, I sent it to BeMyAI, and within kind of 15 seconds, I had a description and a very kind of a detailed breakdown of what the thing was. So it's really interesting technology, and I think AI being baked into everything is really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. That's interesting now, without a doubt, and it seems to have great potential for our use.
I think it does, and it's from speaking to people that have used it. It seems to be a lot more accurate than anything else on the market at the moment as well. In terms of as Stuart said, in terms of the detail it gives you, but also in terms of the things it just picks up and recognizes that other software doesn't do at the moment. Whether it's things like the Orcam or the NVision, or even Seeing AI on which is a free app, admittedly, but anything that uses similar technology is nowhere near as accurate is maybe the best word, but certainly as rich in terms of detail and information it gives you. It really does seem to be quite phenomenal. I was speaking to someone who works for one of the companies I've just mentioned. Actually, I don't want to mention their name just in case. And they were slightly concerned at how good it was, given that they charge for the service, whereas at the moment, to the best of my knowledge, BeMyAI is
it's free. Yeah.
So they were mildly concerned at how good it was, I must admit. So yeah, I think so. If nothing else, it's just going to push other developers and other users or other companies that provide it to be better and do it more cost efficiently as well.
Thank you. That's really interesting, and it should be very beneficial.
Thanks, Geraldine, and thanks for it's a great question actually, and it kind of brings up the whole aspect of AI, because we're seeing it in lots of things. Not just in that option, but there's some of our own technology, in fact, is using AI. So AI is something that we're all getting to grips with.
Okay, thank you. Much appreciated.
Thanks, Geraldine.
Well, you're very welcome.
Okay, would anyone else like to maybe, as Graham said, just maybe pose a question or any aspect of technology that you might be using that you maybe or something you might like to know more about? I suppose, Graham, when we were talking about AI there, some of the smart glasses we have started to implement a bit of AI, haven't they? With
exactly,
NVision.
And that's what I was going to move to next if no one spoke. I mentioned the NVision glasses there, so I think they are worth talking about briefly. Although the BeMyAI kind of stole a lot of the thunder from them, but it means it's easier to explain. I'll quickly talk about the NVision glasses just now. Hopefully somebody's got a question by the end of that, and then after that, if no one else, if we have time, I'll very briefly cover the Oxy as well, because AMD's been mentioned a few times tonight, so I think it's worthwhile just giving that a very quick overview as well.
Brilliant.
So for those that are able to see the screen, what I'm doing just now is I've put on a pair of NVision glasses. Now, for those of you that don't know what they are, I'll do a very high-level overview of them rather than go into any great detail. So NVision are essentially using Google Glass, or Google Glasses as some people know them as. So if you can see the screen, you can see it's a frame of glasses, but then on the right-hand side here, there is a control leg, I suppose, which has all the controls for the device in it, which is all swipes. And then there's a very small screen here, which some people use, some people don't. And it uses AI quite extensively now, using ChatGPT as well. But the primary use of it was initially, certainly, and I know you might not see this on the webcam, there's a small camera here at the end of the right leg. And what you could normally, well, say a year ago, this time last year, you'd be using this to read what you're holding, or read a book, or potentially look at a sign and it'll tell you what's there, or a medicine bottle, something like that, and it'll speak to you with speakers at the back of the leg here. It can also be used to describe scenes. So if you walk into a room, we could say you're in a living room, there's a settee over there with a man and a lady sitting on it, or words to that effect. It also recognizes things like currency, like color. It can recognize faces as well. So if you have friends and family stored in it, you can have it on a passive mode. So every time they walk into your field of view, which is set to about a sort of 90-degree angle from your torso, essentially. Anytime they would walk into your field of view, it would say, "There's Bob," or "There's Dad," or "There's daughter number 1," or whatever you have them saved as. But yeah, things have changed a lot in the last 6 months with the introduction of AI. Oh, sorry, I've jumped ahead a little bit. They also provide a service that's very, very similar to BeMyAI, which is where we were talking about. Whereas rather than you making a call or going through to a random, albeit vetted individual, you can actually have your friends and family involved, so that they essentially see what you're seeing through the camera here. So they would get a call on their smartphone, very, very similar to like a FaceTime call through Facebook, or a video call through WhatsApp. It displays the same for all intents and purposes, but they can see what you're seeing. So if you were out and about, if you were lost in Glasgow, for example, you could phone a friend or a family member, and then they can see what you're seeing, see what the street signs say, and then direct you to where you need to go. Now, with the introduction of AI, it suddenly became a lot more interactive, and very, very similar to how we describe BeMyAI. Whereas rather than it just describing a scene, it can now intelligently interrogate what's in front of you, and you can ask it questions about it as well. An example that I use all the time, because it makes it nice and easy, is if you're in a restaurant, for example, and you had a menu in front of you. You know, sometimes you get the menu that's almost the size of your torso. It's just a huge menu. You can ask it just to say, "Tell me the desserts," and it will just tell you desserts. And then you can tell you or summarize the most expensive things on the menu, and it will just tell you what the most expensive things are. Now, if you wanted to know more about, I'll use cheesecake as an example. So say there's a cheesecake in the dessert menu, and you wanted to know what the ingredients are, even although the clue's in the name a little bit, but maybe that's not the best example. But you can say, "Okay, tell me the ingredients of the cheesecake." And then it will tell you what's in the cheesecake, whether it's a fruit one or whatever it may be. But then you can then ask it, "Well, how is that cheese made, or where's that fruit from, or how many calories is that?" Or you can basically interrogate the device to tell you more and more and more information about what's in front of you. And you can actually go down quite a very deep rabbit hole before you know it, and then you forgot to order something. But you can do the same if you're walking about. You can say, if you're again, I'll use Glasgow as an example. If you're walking about, you see a statue of Lord Lincoln there with his cone on his head. You could ask him to tell you why that's there, what it means, who's that individual, what they're famous for. It's a bit like having, and somebody described it to me the other day, it's a bit like having an Alexa device on your head, where you can interact with it, and you can answer questions, and you can just keep talking and talking and talking. A bit like I'm doing right now, unfortunately. Is there anything I've missed, Stuart, about what else the NVision can do?
I don't think so, Graham. I was just going to, maybe because people always ask about prices, and I thought maybe I should mention those as well. I think you've given a great overview of NVision, by the way, and it is technology definitely worth looking at if people are interested. And again, just mentioning the technology shows next week, people can see all this stuff. There are different editions, Graham, and I don't know if it is a huge difference around how that works in terms of what they cover.
Yes and no. In terms of the actual device itself, the three versions are identical. The differences are essentially functionality. Other than that, and if you buy the lowest level one, you can upgrade to the top one whenever you want, because the device is the exact same. It's just what's switched on and what's switched off. I don't know the euro cost though, so I'll leave that to you. But
so the Reed edition, which is as you said, the lowest one, is 2,159 euros. That these prices are ex VAT, but obviously people can claim the VAT back on these devices. So you fill in a form 61A for revenue, or you can do it on My Revenue if you have an online account. And the home edition are 2,759 euros. And the NVision Glasses Professional Edition, which I suppose has everything that Graham was talking about, is 3,599 euro. So yeah, there's a couple of options there you can choose from.
The main differences, again, without going into huge amounts of detail and boring you completely, the main differences are the Read. So the lowest version is literally just a scan and read device. So it's a real entry level device. So it doesn't have all the extra features. It's really just meant to scan and read documents, books, anything like that. It was more designed to compete with the lower end ORCAM devices, which I can cover off in a sec as well, actually. What the most common one certainly is the middle one, the home device. So that gives you access to everything. It really, in terms of functionality, it gives you access to everything, and it gives you a year's free updates. And they separate updates into two different categories. One is quality of life updates or security updates and things like that, where it's if there's a bug fix, for example, then you get that update the same way your phone does or any other devices you have. The second category they have is if they introduce a new feature. So for the first year you get it. Any new feature that comes down, you get free of charge and for the first year. And then after that, you then need to either pay for the upgrade or pay to upgrade the whole device. With the more expensive version, the functionality is the exact same. You just get every upgrade for free all the time, forever. That's the difference. So you really need to work out whether paying the extra is worthwhile for any potential updates. At the moment, there is no roadmap for any future updates coming out in terms of any new features. So it makes it a little bit harder than it should be to decide whether you want the higher version or not. But like I said, if you have the middle version and something comes out, you can always just pay to have the higher version anyway and get the updates. But yeah, the most common one because of that seems to be the middle one, the home version.
And there is, for anyone who's interested, there are some webinars on the Sight and Sound Technology YouTube channel. If you just go into YouTube and search for Sight and Sound Technology, there are a couple of webinars on NVision with talking about the different features and in more detail, and some demonstrations of them as well. So anybody who wants to look at those, they are available.
One thing I forgot to mention about them as well is that you control it all by swipes on the leg. So you cycle through the menu using your finger on the legs, but it is voice activated as well. So any commands you can just, again, much like an Alexa, for example, you can just tell it to take a picture or scan a document or do this or do that. So you don't have to even, some people, depending on how your fingers are and your hand are, you don't have to worry about potentially using it to swipe left, right, up or down. You can just use your voice to control the whole device. And I believe, Stuart, we have Priyanka from NVision with us next week, don't we?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Thanks. Good call. Yeah. So one of the people from the manufacturing company, a lady called Priyanka from the Netherlands, will be joining us. So she'll be there to show the glasses and all the potential of the NVision system. And there is an NVision app as well if you want to get a snapshot of just some of the functions it provides, which is free, and the app is free to use as well. So you can search for that in the App Store or the Google Play Store, depending on what device you have. I'm just going to give another shout in case there are anybody wants to raise a hand or put something in chat. You can click raise hand, you can click chat. We're keen to hear of anybody's tech experiences or any issues you might have with tech or any questions. Is there anything that you're using that kind of frustrates you? Anything at all? It's please feel free to just jump in on the conversation.
I don't know if no questions means I'm doing a good job or I'm doing a terrible job.
Graham, I'm going to take it that you're doing a great job. That everybody is just you're covering all the bases here. Everyone's thrilled. So did we want to, Graham, talk about Oxy just maybe before we finish up?
Not a problem at all. So what I have here, and again, if you can't see the screen, I'll try and describe it as best I can. What I'm holding in front of me is a device called the Oxy Onyx. It's designed by a company called Oxy, who are based down in somewhere near Oxford, I believe. And this is a device that is designed specifically for people with AMD, so age-related macular degeneration. It does work for other versions of macular degeneration, but that's where it started. They are called glasses, but I don't know. I think that's a bit of a misnomer. They're a bit more like goggles. I'm going to show my age here a little bit, and it kind of reminds me of when you were at the beach as a kid and you had the big snorkel and the goggles that go with it. It's about the same shape and size as that without the snorkel part. I don't think you see them much nowadays. And what they do is, without getting super technical with you, you can hold them to your eyes, or they have a pair of legs you can have with Velcro at the back that attaches so it just sits on your face. Also, I won't assume that you all know how AMD is. So I'll very briefly cover that. So AMD is where people are potentially losing their central vision, whether it's a small black dot or lots of grey spots. There's something where their central vision is deteriorating and they can't really see what's in front of them, but they'll still have some peripheral vision. So what these glasses do, for all intents, or I said glasses, they're not, they're more like goggles, like I said. What the Oxy Onyx goggles do is, well, let me show you this. And so, see on the back of it, actually, on the back of it here, you can see two lenses. They're very, very similar shape to a pair of binoculars. So that's what you're looking through when you're wearing them. But on the front of it here, you'll see hopefully that there's no lenses on the front of it. You can hear me tapping that. Hopefully that's just hard plastic along the whole front. There is, however, for those that can see, and I know this will be quite hard to see actually, there's a very small camera here. So what you're doing is when you're looking through it, you're actually looking through a live feed from this camera. And why it's so bulky is, what the camera's doing is that inside here, it's essentially filling in the blanks for parts of what the eye can't see anymore. So when you're looking through it, rather than having a grey dot or black dot or a shadow in front of you, you should be able to see, again, what is there now, as opposed to what you can't see anymore. It's specifically designed for things like object recognition, facial recognition, and watching television. It's very, very good at helping folk watch TV again. It's terrible for reading. I don't know why, but yeah, if you're trying to read subtitles, for example, it just doesn't work very well. It does work for some, but it's maybe 1 in 20, 1 in 25 where it works for them, whereas they can then see the text as well. Not sure why, but it was never designed for that anyway, but it's certainly not a reading device. I would say the most common reason people tend to go for it is because it helps them see television. And that's a very, very, very quick overview of it. Hopefully that might spark a question or two, maybe.
Yeah, hopefully. I've just been trolling through the products on our website and I've been unable to find a euro price for the Oxy, so I do apologize. If anyone is particularly interested, please drop me an email and we will come back on that. Funny you mentioned
if anyone's good at doing currency conversion, it's about £1,500, but I don't know what the current euro conversion rate is.
I'll do that now in a sec. I know one of the things that my colleague Sharon was telling us, Graham, when she did a demo of this, of the Oxy, she went to visit a gentleman who all he wants to be able to do was to watch the rugby again. And it worked brilliantly for that, so it definitely has its use.
I've had a couple of people who use it for hobbies.
Yeah.
One was an engineer, and he was a very old chap, but he used to like to repair, or they don't say used to, he still does, but repair old transistor radios. But he just couldn't see he just couldn't really see the circuit boards anymore and all the information on it. So now, and that was his main hobby once he retired. So now he uses the goggles to repair these old transistor radios. I have another older lady who likes to use it for cross-stitching. Again, she can just see what she's doing with it. And again, it's not a hobby I understand, so I don't know the intricacies of it all. And I also have a lady who uses it for bird watching. She likes to just sit in our kitchen, have the patio doors open. She's got loads of different bird feeders, and she just has the glasses on, and she's just watching the birds eat whatever she feeds them. And that's her in her happy place.
Brilliant. Fantastic. It's great to hear sometimes how people are using technology, maybe in ways that we've never thought of, or that the manufacturers mightn't have even thought of. So it's always interesting. So thank you, Graham. Last chance then for anyone, if you want to ask a question, or if there's anything from tonight that you wanted to follow up with us on. If there's not, then I'm going to thank everybody for attending the session. We do, as I say, have our technology show next week, Technology Roadshow, and the information is in the chat, starting on the 9th of October in Dublin, and then moving to Waterford, Cork, and Galway. So if you're around any of those locations and you want to come and see us, do get in touch. Everybody has my email address as well from the session. So if you need anything by way of follow-up, please get in touch. Graham, we very much appreciate your attendance. Thank you for taking the time to join us this evening and giving us a great overview. And there's Keith telling us he'll see us in Galway. Yeah, I met Keith a few weeks ago, so looking forward to catching up with Keith in Galway in a couple of weeks. Not in a couple of weeks, in a couple of days even, next week.
It's next week, yeah.
Next week. In just over a week, we'll be in Galway. And okay, thanks everybody for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll speak to everyone soon.